Okay, I'm jumping in. Let's look at the agenda. What are we looking at? Why am I so keen to cover so much today? Well, to be honest, there's only two agenda items, but they're massive. First, I'm going to start with a summary of an email marketing strategy. I'm going to tell you my take on it. It differs slightly from the traditional kind of literature that you might find online. So bear with me. It's a little bit backwards. I'm a little bit backwards. I'm from down under, but I think it's going to be really applicable for your Keeler account. Then we're going to look at Keeler tools, so the best of the best, some things that I think you should consider when you're building your email marketing strategy, a couple of highlights, specifically segmentation. I'll show you some examples of that. And then Q&A. So every second that I'm spending right now is being taken away from the Q&A that I think will be big. So that's why I'm in a bit of a rush. Okay, let's take one moment. I've been rushing this part. Let's just take one moment to appreciate everyone for coming today. And just for anyone who might have missed my announcement at the start, we do have some storms here in Vancouver, and apparently the power in my apartment is supposed to be out as we speak, but it's not. So everything seems okay. I think it's Providence. But just if I disappear, that's why. But fingers crossed. Okay, let's move into it. Let's do what we all came here to do. We're here for some theory. Let's learn some theory. Now, I promise, although I did mention that I'm going to do things a little bit backwards, I'm not going to go rogue. Everything that I'm covering today is still supported online. It's as part of the elements of an end of year email marketing strategy. I've just added a few things, and more importantly, I've changed the order in which I think you should do things. For example, traditional email marketing strategies, they begin with creating lists, email lists of contacts first. That's the first step. You build your email lists and then you go from there. And I'm always just like, whoa, 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 whoa. Hold your horses, Harry. You want to decide on the who of your email marketing strategy, but you don't even know what the what is. You know what I mean? It's like putting the cart before the horse. So I want to break down for you how I would approach it, why I think this method, despite being against the grain, works a little bit better, and hopefully get you all as believers in that my order works better, but we'll see. Let's break it down. Let me show you what I mean. So there are three basic components to an email marketing strategy, whether you're following my method or any method that you find online. There are sort of three components and then a bunch of other extra steps depending on what resource you're looking at. We're going to be going through each of these three steps with a little bit of help from one of my handy dandy spreadsheets that I've created that you'll all get a copy of. So we'll make sure we have a really practical application for all of the theory that we're going to go through. So to build your email marketing strategy, you must first identify each of your touch points. So each of your emails, each of the times that you're going to contact your supporters. That's the first sort of the main thing. That's the whole idea of an email marketing strategy. And these touch points, they have a little bit of variation within them. Three main kind of points that I like to examine when I'm determining what these touch points will be. So the first one is dates, the when. There are a whole bunch of very important dates and times coming up in the upcoming months. We need to make sure that we're taking all of those dates and the timing of each into account when we're planning out our email marketing strategy. We need to make sure that everything fits in a very neat and sensible sequential order. Two is the purpose, which is the what. Once you have the basic timeline of the emails you're going to send out, all those touch points for your contacts, then we need to look at, okay, what kind of patterns can we identify to sort of guide the what of our emails? But which one is going to be a fundraising ask? Which one is going to be us sharing a story? What will the goal of each email on those specific dates be? And then this is the part where I differ from traditional sense. Well, there's many, many ways that I differ from the traditional, but this is the one specific to this webinar. Then I think you should look at the audience or the who. So once you understand the when, once you understand the what, then you'll have all of the context that you need to determine the different variations of email lists that you're going to have within those. So this is actually backwards. Everyone says start with the audience. And I just think, How can you start with the audience? You don't even know what day you're emailing them. Let me show you an example. I think I'm going to get you all on my side. Let me show you an example. So let's say I'm planning, just really briefly, I'm planning my Giving Tuesday strategy. And remember, the first step of the traditional method is to create your email lists or to create your segments first. If we're going down that route, our action item now would be to create a whole bunch of email lists with no context, no understanding of what the emails are that we're even trying to send. We just have to imagine it without any baseline. But with the practical method, the one that I'm trying to convince you all to turn to, we're starting off with date. Okay, so what do we know about the dates in the upcoming months? We know it's Giving Tuesday, right? That's the example I'm using. We know that our supporters are going to be receiving a whole bunch of emails from us and from all the other organizations and nonprofits that they may be subscribed to. I know that I get about 20 emails every Giving Tuesday. Most of them are from people, Keela customers though, so I'm usually pretty happy to get them, to be honest. But that's one thing we know. That's one piece of context that we know about Giving Tuesday. We know that we may or may not have sent emails leading up to Giving Tuesday. So maybe you've sent 1 or 2 emails previously letting people know about Giving Tuesday. We know that there might be some context there. We know that the email that we send today will need to complement each further touch point throughout the rest of the year. So we know that this email that we're sending on Giving Tuesday, it needs to fit within the context of the whole strategy. Okay, that's step 1. We've got a good baseline of information here. Let's build on it. Next is the what. Regardless of who these emails are going to, we need to know what the purpose of it is. We need an aligned purpose, a what for each of these dates. Specifically in this example, what are we trying to achieve on Giving Tuesday? Are we celebrating successes? Are we sharing a story? No, we're asking for funds. It's Giving Tuesday. The whole purpose of it is a fundraising ask. So that's really easy. Fundraising ask. This one's a good example. And then now that we know that on Giving Tuesday, we're going to be sending out a fundraising ask, now we can talk about the who. We can talk about the audiences that we're looking at. If it was a story that we were sharing, these audiences would be completely different. We would be using sort of maybe data about their interests, what they told us they subscribed for, the reason that they first opted in. But because we're doing a fundraising ask, that completely changes the email list. We're going to be looking at donation data, perhaps. And here's some examples. So because of that, because I've been inspired by the when and the what, now I can make some lists willy-nilly. Let's make a segment for folks who donated to Giving Tuesday last year. Let's make it one segment for people who may not have donated last year, but have donated this year. And then let's make a segment for people who aren't donors at all. So you can see, hopefully, how the context of these first 2 steps is informing the 3rd step. Otherwise, you're sort of starting off with nothing, and it can be really hard to invent segments and invent filters and invent patterns if you don't have that context. But there's more. Don't just jump onto my wagon just yet, okay? Bear with me. I've got a whole presentation about why you should. Okay, when, what, and who in that order. Let's put this into practice. Let me show you the whole email marketing strategy from start to finish. This is just an example. So those were the basics of email marketing and the strategy that you should build. We understand the theory behind it. How do we apply it practically? Well, first, we need to map out the whole rest of the year. To help with this, I have that handy dandy spreadsheet that I mentioned, and of course, everyone is going to receive a copy of it. And we're going to be doing some activities within that spreadsheet. So remember, step 1 of the general email marketing strategy is identify your touch point dates. Okay, brilliant. The action item for this, as stated very handily here, is that we need to look at my spreadsheet that I'm about to show you, and we need to look at column D, which is the special dates column. Let's just jump straight into it. Here is my planning your email marketing strategy spreadsheet that I've built for all of you based on these best practices I'm talking about today. Let me show you around. In column A, I've just got the months and I've kind of color coded them a little bit. So orange for October to match the pumpkins, and November's green. We've got December, yellow, and January, of course, at the end. In column B, I've just got the dates. So this can be shifted up and down, so you can use it year over year. I put the days of the week here just in case you have kind of some rules around when you send email marketing. So, for example, I send my customer newsletter on Thursdays only. And so you might want to avoid as well sending a message at 7 a.m. on a Sunday or something like that. So I've just put those in there in case it's helpful. But the action item that we're looking at is just the column D. I've put some special dates in here to get you started. When you get a copy of this, you can change it to any dates that you want, but let me talk you through. So up the top here, I might just zoom in one little bit so you can read. 53% of nonprofits start planning their end of year appeal in October. Congratulations, that's what we're all doing right now. So we are all winners. And then I've gone through and just broken up the special dates column. So if you look here, let's just run through it. I've got November monthly newsletter. So I put this in here just in case you send out a monthly newsletter. I wanted to show you where the newsletter could fit into this section. Feel free to move that around if you send your newsletter at a different time rather than the first day of the week. As we're scrolling down, I've got things like special days of note. And I put this in here because I think a lot of the time we do get caught up in the Giving Tuesday bonanza in November, and often we might forget to look at the world days because they can be really, really good at giving context to our appeals. So for example, World Kindness Day is the Sunday here. Perhaps when I send my first Giving Tuesday message on the week of the 15th of November, if I just put World Kindness Day here as a special note, perhaps that's something that I can come back and reference in my Giving Tuesday message. So you're able to take sort of context from the dates and then feed that into your appeals. That's what I mean about using the when. Speaking of Giving Tuesday, my first message, I've got in here that of the week of the 15th, at some point, this is when Giving Tuesday message is going out. So this is the part that I want you to be doing. All of the rest is just bonus, but you need to be planning out when message 1 is going to go, when message 2 is going to go. So I've got the week of the 21st of November, and when message 3 is going to go. And of course, that's probably going to be on Giving Tuesday, the day of. So we're mapping out each touch point. Now, some people do 2 to 3 emails for Giving Tuesday. Maybe you only do 1. If that's the case, it's probably going to be on the day of. So just only have 1. Moving down, as we start to get into December, you'll see here that I've got Giving Tuesday message 4, which is thank you and an impact share, but I've actually got it as being yellow because it becomes our end of year appeal number 1. Because when we share this big message in the first week of December saying, hey, Giving Tuesday was a success, this is why everything is fantastic, that actually becomes the springboard for our end of year appeal 2. And our end of year appeal 3, which happens right before the holiday season. And then, of course, at the end here, we have one final appeal for end of year, and it's in the last week of December. Now, you might say that 4 different messages for end of year is a lot. Let me tell you, 30% of annual giving occurs in December. So the statistics are with us. You might think, okay, it's a bit overkill to have one final appeal in the last week of December. Everyone's on holidays. Everyone's stuffed full of turkey. No one wants to hear from me. But of that 30%, 10% to 12% comes in that last week. So the statistics are with us. This is why we need to use the dates to inform our strategy, because we need everything mapped out so we can understand when and why. So that's the special dates column. And of course, at the end, you've got just your regular thank yous that you're probably going to send in January. So this is what I've built for you. Now, when I head back here, our next action item is to identify your touch point purposes, which is column E and F. And this, I think, is where you're going to start seeing things coming together. If I jump back in here and I head over to E and F, we've got an email purpose column here and a notes column here. You've already seen me use that notes column. For the email purpose, what I've got is a list of what I think let me zoom in again. A list of what I believe the main purposes of emails to be. So we've got fundraising lead up, fundraising ask, fundraising follow up, impact share, mass one-on-one emails, newsletter, and thank you. And so if I just scoot that along, we'll be able to see notes better. There we go. So after you've sort of assembled your special dates and you've decided on when each touch point is going to be, go through and determine what the purpose of each touch point will be and let the spreadsheet guide you. So let's do it ourselves. We've got newsletter here. That's pretty easy. We can just put newsletter. Giving Tuesday message number 1. Now, this is when things start to get a little bit more delicate because you need to differentiate the purpose of each of these emails, right? You can't just have 4 emails asking for money. It's going to get old. It's not going to be fresh. It's not strategic. So for our November newsletter, I would probably just look at things like important dates and events, good news stories of 2022, keep it pretty casual. And then when we get down to Giving Tuesday message, remember that's when I thought maybe we could lean on the World Kindness Day. This is going to be a fundraising lead up. So that's the purpose of this, a fundraising lead up. So it's something that we send out that doesn't ask for funds, but it's a lead up to that. It's going to prep everyone. So I think sometimes people might combine, the fundraising lead up and the fundraising ask into the one email, and it can be a little bit much. I think we should break it up. We're going to prepare everybody. So for this, what I might do is I might share some Giving Tuesday good news stories from last year. Let's pop that in there. And maybe I'll use the theme of World Kindness Day to kind of round that out. Let me move that in and I'll move this in too. There we go. So now I know that's going to be the purpose. It's a fundraising lead up email, and these are the notes I'm going to cover while I'm brainstorming as we go. Okay, we're getting into Giving Tuesday message number 2 territory here, being sent on the week of the 21st. So here's when I might get a little bit more specific, a little bit more personal. I've sent a general mention of Giving Tuesday and talked about last year. This one I want it to feel as if it's a personal email that I'm sending to my contacts. I'm still not asking for funds. I'm just priming. I'm just educating. I'm just getting everyone in the mood for a Giving Tuesday kind of bonanza. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to choose mass one-on-one emails. And what this is it's just using Keela's blank email marketing template and putting in a smart code and making it seem like a one-on-one email. Really easy to do. Just not having doesn't need colors. It just needs to be white with black font and look like it's written by someone one-on-one. So for here, what I might put is I might personalize these emails with smart codes, whether it's, using a donation summary smart code or perhaps some of our donation transaction smart codes that we released last week to personalize that kind of email and reference the contact's giving history. I might say, hey, you donated last year. Are you ready to donate again this year? Or, hey, I know you've already donated this year, but the most important day of the year is coming up. And as long as oh, sorry, that's the wrong one. This one. As long as I'm referencing their personal history, it's going to be quite specific. And that's how I'm differentiating Giving Tuesday appeal number 1 and Giving Tuesday appeal number 2 from each other. It's that what. Then the big day, the Super Bowl for nonprofits, basically, that's when I do my fundraising ask. That's the type that I have there. That's when I say, okay, it's Giving Tuesday. Can you support us? When we move down to Giving Tuesday number 4, this one is going to be an impact share. And that means that it's basically we're sending out an email that's sharing all of the huge successes of our Giving Tuesday campaign, and we're sharing it with everyone. And I need numbers in this one, folks. I need the direct results of those numbers to be shared in these emails. How much did you raise? What impact will that have on your organization? How many more folks can you help as a direct result of the Giving Tuesday campaign? The more specific you are here, the more impactful it's going to be. It's really going to wow your donors. I know it takes a little bit of time. You've only got a short week to get all this data together, but I promise you the results will be tenfold, the return on investment. Because sharing success stories from campaigns like this, it has three kind of things that it does, three incredible things that it does. Number one, it shows every donor who gave to you on Giving Tuesday that they made the correct decision, that you were the correct investment for their donation. Some folks only have one or two donations that they give out on Giving Tuesday. And if you show them what a success your campaign was, you're going to show them in their brain, I made the right choice by investing in this company, in this organization. Yes. So, number one, shows that they were correct in investing in you. Number two, if you share details about the funds that were given and the impact that it has with your cause area, specific details. I'm talking, we raised this much amount of money, which means we can help 6 more dogs find their forever home, something really specific like that. What it does is it connects your donors directly with your cause area and it makes them feel incredible. This is the stuff that gets me. I'm addicted to this stuff. And every time I see it, I think, absolutely, I'll see you next Giving Tuesday. You can't emulate that feeling. You know what I mean? Enough. So what we're doing is we're connecting people with the results of their campaign and we're turning them into long-term supporters. We're making them come back. And lastly, sharing the impact, you're going to share it with the people that maybe didn't donate. Maybe there are people who thought about donating and they missed it, or folks who've never even considered donating. If you hype up the success of your campaign and make them feel like it's something maybe they missed out on, something they could have been a part of that was a massive success, some of them will feel FOMO. Some of them will have a fear of missing out. And you know what's right around the corner? End of year fundraising. So you're going to come and you're going to give them an opportunity to assuage that FOMO that they're feeling, that fear of missing out immediately. And you're going to give them an opportunity to donate again. So that's why it is so, so very important to include an impact share immediately after a campaign like Giving Tuesday. So to summarize, what we're going to be doing here is an impact share, and we're going to be sharing successes, connecting donors with impact, and encouraging non-donors, FOMO. And just a reminder that that was the fourth email for our Giving Tuesday campaign, but technically the first email of our end of year appeal, because we want to start with that springboard. We want to keep the momentum going and use that to carry through. I don't want you to have too much of a gap between your Giving Tuesday campaign and your end of year fundraiser because they'll seem disconnected. And when you start having that disconnection between those campaigns, it will feel like, didn't you just have a campaign? Didn't you just ask me for money? But if you can keep it connected and you can keep that momentum going, I think it really justifies the rest of your campaign in some things that I've experienced on the receiving end. And also starting out with momentum like that, you're just going to have more success. Okay, so here we go. Now remember, 30% of annual giving is about to start. We've got our Giving Tuesday message. Let's head down to our end of year appeal. So we're looking at perhaps let's say fundraising education at this point. What we're going to be doing is just letting everyone know about the end of the year appeal that you do. So we'll call it a fundraising lead up because I'm leading in up to my fundraising ask. And we'll use it to sort of teach folks, get them thinking about the end of year appeal, getting them thinking about their place within your end of year appeal. This is just a simple end of year fundraising education. You just want to prime as many folks as you can for the fundraising ask that you're about to do. Then, of course, speaking of which, we've got our end of year appeal, which occurs sometime in the week before the holiday season. Here is when you do your fundraising ask. You say it's end of year, fundraising ask, maybe a little holiday message, final ask of the year. That's when we do it. However, as previously stated, 10 to 12% of annual giving occurs the week after. So the strategy I have for this, it's a little cheeky. It involves a little bit of psychology, and it's basically based on all of the procrastination that I as a person have ever done. So even though you're sending a fundraising ask the week before the holidays start, that even though you're prefacing that as this is our final ask for the year, you know that there are going to be 10 to 12% potentially donors who will not donate here and will forget. Just like me, they will think, oh yeah, I have to donate before the end of the year. And then they'll absolutely forget about it. So with that, what I want your last message to be is a fundraising follow-up where you know in advance that statistic, you know, people are like me and we forget, we're filled with turkey, we need some help, remind us. So technically that's 2 fundraising asks in a row, but the whole sentiment of the 4th appeal will be just following up on the people who haven't donated, following up on the people who perhaps haven't opened your email. And we'll give this one a little bit of a theme, last chance to donate. Then, of course, you've just got your January thank you. Everyone should get a personalized thank you message for their donations, and you can use Keeler's smart codes and transaction codes and filters and donation summaries to make that seem very, very personalized while still being a mass email. Ring in the new year with donation summaries and a new year message. So you can see here, the takeaways I think now are that since we've mapped out when we want to touch base with our contacts, what touch points we want to have, that's when we can start distributing the types of asks that we have. That's why that context is important. Imagine if I came to you and I said, you need to create 20 segments for the end of the year, but I'm not going to tell you why, and I'm not going to tell you what they're for. Just think of 20 ways to filter your contacts. Go. I mean, if I asked the customer care team, to be honest, they probably would be able to do it, but you don't have time for that. You know what I mean? You don't have time to live in Keeler every day. So that's why we use the context to help us. The next thing I want you to sort of take away from this is that this message here, where are we? Let me zoom back a little bit. This message here, the Giving Tuesday message number 4, which becomes end of year appeal number 1, this can be the cornerstone of your end of year email marketing strategy. It's sort of the thing that ties it all together and makes sure that the pendulum keeps swinging and you don't have a kind of a weird break in the middle. Okay. So that was that action item. Column E and F, check, we did it. Next, now that we have that context, is of course identifying our audience. Which audiences will we send emails to? Let's do it together. So I have 2 basic appeals. I've got my Giving Tuesday appeal. I've got my end of year appeal. I have all the context that I need to think of segments, easy peasy. I've only got 4 for each here because this is a webinar and I wanted to make sure that we'd have time at the end, but you could make 20 segments and I'll show you the opportunities where you can do that. Okay, let's look at number 1. So segment number 1 for Giving Tuesday. I always start with the people I want to exclude. That's always the first segment I create when I'm creating email lists and I'm envisioning a kind of series of emails. Folks who donated in the last 3 months seems pretty good to exclude. So I'll just create a segment of all those people and then I can exclude it from the other segments down the bottom. I just picked 3 months. I was like, maybe you don't want to reach out to someone who donated in September and give them for Giving Tuesday, but it's up to you. You can make that 1 month, you can make it 6 months, whatever you prefer. You can do whatever segments you like. Choose your own adventure. For segment number 2, I figured what I might do is send a specific version of my emails to folks who donated to Giving Tuesday last year, but haven't donated this year at all. I wanted to split them out. I want them to get their own version of the email because I want to acknowledge that this isn't their first rodeo. They've been with us here before, and I'm wanting to sort of adjust my messaging to make it more of a partnership. We've done this before. Let's dance again. You're back here. Let's do this. Rather than treating them as if they've never heard of Giving Tuesday before. So segment number 2, a special email for folks who haven't donated in the last 3 months, because remember, I'm going to exclude this one, but folks who donated to Giving Tuesday last year. Segment number 3, folks who perhaps didn't donate to Giving Tuesday last year, but they have donated this year. So again, I'm going to adjust the language of my email a little bit to acknowledge that they've already given this year and that here I am asking again. I want to give them some acknowledgement for their gifts already and explain why it's important Giving Tuesday deserves their attention as well. And of course, we'll always have a segment number 4 for anybody who's left over. So folks who haven't made any donations at all, and those messages are going to be really, really enticing. I'm going to fill them with all of the impact sharing that I can, all of those good stories about what this donation means for my organization, and encourage those folks to give. Maybe I'll test out a couple of different variations and see which email was more effective to our non-donors. There's always room for that. Over on the right side, end of year appeal. Similar thing, always start with the people that you're wanting to exclude. So contacts who have donated in the last month. Is that a little bit cheeky? I don't know. I narrowed it down. I figure maybe we don't want folks who donated in November, but anybody else would be fair game. I'm not sure. Use your own discretion on that, on who you should be excluding. But remember, if you keep the momentum going, it might make sense to ask for funds again. End of year fundraising is a really important time, especially if you use the lead up emails that I mentioned to sort of plead your case of how it's important. The next two, really easy. We're just using inbuilt Keela filters. We've got a LIBUNT list, so I'm going to send one specific type of email to folks who donated last year but not this year. And then segment 3 is a SciBunt list. So people who've donated in some years, but not this year. So maybe they donated 2 years ago. That one is going to need a lot of love. You're really going to have to put some romance in there to reignite that spark. But I know you're all up to the task. And then, of course, always have a catch-all for just anybody you missed, anyone who wasn't in those segments, basically. And I'll show you how I'm going to create one set of these, the Giving Tuesday segments, when I'm looking at Keela tools. Okay, so I've identified my email audiences. Let's say I sketched this out on a whiteboard and I thought, all right, that's how I'm doing for Giving Tuesday. That's how I'm doing for end of year appeal. What I would do is go in here and I'm just going to zoom out a little bit so that you can see. And I'll scroll over to my segmentation list here. Here's where I just pop those notes. So for example, if I'm looking down here at let me just zoom that in, at our end of year appeal, this is the fundraising ask. If I go to segmentation is there, I'd probably put, okay, so we have segment 1 was donated in the last month, LIBUNT, then we had SciBunt, and then we had non-donors. Pop that in there. So I know that this end of year appeal email, which I'm realizing should have been down here, apologies. I know that I'm at least creating 4 different versions of that email for these 4 different segments that I'm going to create. If you want to get really fancy, once you create the segments, you could even link them, hyperlink them here. But this is for bonus points. You don't need to do that. Speaking of bonus points though, a big part of an end of year email marketing strategy that I'm not going to be talking about in this webinar happens next year. That's why it's not in here. I don't want to be thinking about 2023 right now, but I have put a little section in here in case you're thinking about it. So the final kind of concept of all email marketing strategy is that no matter what you try, all the different variations of emails that you send and the strategy and the beautiful alignment of them, they're all meaningless if you don't analyze the success of them. So all of these statistics are in Keela. You can certainly go in and view them. And if you don't want to fill in a spreadsheet, I get it. I love spreadsheets. I spend every day in them. So I'm a big fan. But I find that when you have the data outlined in a spreadsheet, it's a lot easier to share with folks and it's a lot easier to identify patterns because you can make graphs and all those kind of things. So if you want, what you can do is pop in all the different variations in here. Then next year, you can just make another tab for 2023 and another tab and another tab. And I would love to think about you using this spreadsheet in 2023 and thinking of me maybe. But that's the spot there. No matter what, the takeaway is that you must analyze at the end of the year, even if it's in January, it doesn't have to be now. It can be sort of once all this is over, maybe in March after you've done all your receipting. You do need to make sure that you're analyzing the effectiveness of each. If you find that you had a really low open rate for end of year appeal 2, maybe it was too soon. Maybe it needed to be a little bit further back. I just sort of popped in these dates even sort of divided it, but you might find that you're going to move this message up here and move this down here and then test out how that works. Okay, that, my friends, is the basics of email marketing strategy and a lot about why it's important to start with the when and the what before you look at the who. I hope you're all convinced. I know you are, I can feel it. So we've looked at a lot of theory now. Let's look at the practical stuff. Now it's time to see it all in Keela. So I just want to run through a couple of tools that I think are really important for you to sort of keep in mind when you're doing all of this. So we'll look at a couple of things. We've got campaigns really quickly. I'll run through that. Our new donation forms. So a couple of things you should be doing on those donation forms to make your email marketing really, really effective. Segments, because I think there'll be lots of questions about that, specifically about how I think you should structure your segments for each list. And then at the end, we'll have a bonus one where I talk through automation and the kind of next level of an email marketing strategy that I think really takes this all to a space that maybe traditionally doesn't get looked at in the nonprofit sector very much. Let's do this. Okay, let's jump in. Let's start with an easy one with campaigns. You can find campaigns in the campaign section. Surprise, surprise. Let's zoom in. But basically, you need to have a campaign label for Giving Tuesday 2022 and a campaign label for end of year 2022. This is not negotiable. If there is anyone at Keela who does not do this, they better not be accepting donations this year. Otherwise, I'll be very mad. We need it. And you can put a goal in there. I definitely recommend popping a goal in there as well, because it can be really useful when you're putting it on your donation forms. But that's negotiable. The campaign, non-negotiable. Don't do it to me, folks. Don't break my heart. So I've created a campaign label for Giving Tuesday 2022. I'm going to make one for end of year 2022. Whoa. And let's make that 5,000. Why is this so important? Why am I being such a stickler for it? We need campaign labels because I want to automate all of your reporting. I want to make sure that every donation that you receive from all of this email marketing that I'm talking about, it needs to automatically be applied to these campaigns and you don't need to think about it. I don't want anything like that. The only time you need to think about this is when you're receiving cash donations, and then you know you have to put the label in there. If we're automating your donation collection in email marketing strategy, we want campaign labels. It becomes really important because it lets you run totals. So let me show you an existing campaign. You get totals, you have progress, you can put thermometers on your donation forms, but it also helps you track who's donating to who. So next year, you know that you can create a segment specifically for contacts who donated to this label. You don't need to do any kind of fiddling about there. Now, on the topic of folks who donated last year, do you have campaign labels for Giving Tuesday 2021 and end of year 2021? This one, I will absolutely forgive you if you don't. Maybe you only started with Keela recently. Maybe you haven't been scared by me in the past, and now you know that your live's about to change and you're doing campaign labels from now on. No matter what, your history, it's okay, because there's a way that you can do it retrospectively. If I jump into fundraising and I go to transactions, let's do filters. What I'm going to do is filter by transaction type, make it donation, and then date received. And what I'm going to do is just search for any donations received in December last year. It's not exact, but since we haven't done our reporting correctly, that's on me. I'll be willing to accept give or take. Oh, sorry, that's 2022. 2021, that's what we want. Okay, let's head to 2021, December 31st. Filter. Okay, so 10 transactions I have here. So what I can do, and you can do this with any donations in your transactions tab, you can select all pages. If you've got 100 donations, it'll select all of them. Click actions, and click Edit Associations. And what this will do is it will let you update the labels in bulk of these transactions. So really, really handy. So what I'm going to do is find end of year 2021 and I'll update all. We'll make sure that's in there. And you can do the same thing for Giving Tuesday. We could just look at, let's say, donations is between, and I believe Giving Tuesday was the 30th last year. Yes, it was. It's burnt into my memory. Let's do that. Okay, we've got 60 transactions. That checks out. So we'll go ahead and we'll edit the associations of that. And where is Giving Tuesday 2021? There we go. We'll make sure that's updated. And this way, your segments are going to be a lot easier to build because you'll be able to quickly identify who's given where. Okay, let's head to my Keeler tool, important end of year feature number 2, Keeler's new donation forms. So if you haven't made the transition to Keeler's new donation forms, now is definitely the time to do it. We've got in here, you can just come here, go to forms, hover over create new, and just select the new form builder. I've got one already created, so you don't have to watch me go through that process. The most important thing to do is to make sure that the associated campaign on this brand new donation form is selected to Giving Tuesday. And I think now is the time to address the elephant in the room. I do believe that you need to have your own specific donation form for each campaign. I see some folks using their regular website donation form for Giving Tuesday and for end of year appeals. I definitely get why. I know you want to send folks to your website, but I think one of the most beautiful things about email marketing strategy is that you can have standalone donation forms connected to them. And I'll explain why in a moment, but what I recommend is creating 2 standalone donation forms, one for Giving Tuesday and one for end of year that you can link in your email marketing, and making sure that all of them have the correct campaign selected to them. So this is my Giving Tuesday standalone form, and I've just connected Giving Tuesday 2022 to it. So from now on, any donation that's received through this form, it'll be associated with that campaign, and all my running totals will be added up. Now, why? Why do I think that? It's the only time on earth I ever recommend standalone donation forms is this specific purpose. So you're all watching history unfold right now. If I head to the designer, for starters, there's a thing called Smart Ask. I'll head to donate. I'm looking at the ask type here. It's a really, really important part of email marketing strategy when you're doing fundraising. How much do you ask for? And to be honest, I had a 20-minute segment of that in this webinar. And then I remembered I don't need to do that because we have a tool that does it for you. It is amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, and members of this webinar, the Smart Ask tool. Sounds like I'm saying not smart ask because of my accent, which I hope you all get a bit of a giggle out because I'm about to say it a couple of times. So with the Smart Ask tool, you have the ability for Keeler to automatically update these donation amounts on your donation form, depending on who is viewing it from your email. It's incredible. You link this standalone donation form to a big button in every email marketing that you send. Whoever clicks on it, these are going to update. So maybe you get a poor old university student whose last donation was $3. They're only going to see the $20, the $50, and the $100 donation amounts here. But maybe a major donor opens this form from your email. These might update to $200, $500, and $1,000. And what Keeler does is it connects the person viewing the email with all of the donation data in your Keeler account and gives them updated donation amounts based on that giving history. It's amazing. And what it does that we've seen in industry best practices is that the higher the ask amounts are here, the higher your average gift size is likely to be. So making that little change, turning on this toggle here, automatically increases the chances of you having a higher average gift size. It's amazing with a click of a button. Standalone forms, they are the best for email marketing for fundraising. So that's number one. Number two, for increasing average gift size, see how I have this thermometer here. Because I've connected a campaign to my donation form, I can turn this campaign thermometer on and off. And studies have also shown that folks are more likely to give higher donations if they have this here, specifically if you're almost hitting your target. I have seen folks come in on halfway through Giving Tuesday when they realize that they're absolutely going to smash their target and double it. And the money kept coming in. You know what I mean? If I see that you're at 99% of your target and I was about to give $5 and I know that there's $15 until you hit your target, for that feeling, I'd give $15. So it's psychology. The last reason why you should be using a brand new Keeler donation form standalone for these kind of incremental changes is our prompt recurring feature. So let me show you what that does. So if someone gives a small donation, a small one-time donation, and you have prompt recurring turned on, they'll get this option where it says, would you consider, I know you're going to give $20, would you consider donating $8 a month ongoing? The biggest problem I see for nonprofits coming into Giving Tuesday and end of year fundraising, it's not getting the funds. Lots of people, as you've seen with the stats, lots of people want to donate now. The trickiest part is retaining those donors. Everyone sees the highest increase of one-time donors and then they never hear from them again. So this increases the chances of you converting folks to be recurring donors, which is another great statistic. One of my favorite authors, James Clear, has this book called Atomic Habits, which I'm sure lots of you have heard of. But in that book, he talks about how often it's only those little incremental changes, those 1% changes, that have the biggest impact because they're quite easy to make, especially if you're just switching on toggles on your form, and adding up, they can have a really big impact over time. So that's why donation forms are incredibly important. And that's why I think you should have your own one for these campaigns. Okay, how are we doing for time? All right, I'm going to zoom through the next one and then we'll have time for questions. And if anyone has questions afterwards, they can send them through to support and I'll make sure I answer them. So the next thing I want to talk about is our segments and how I suggest that you create your segments for the end of year appeals that we've been talking about. What I like to do is layer my segments. So start with the segments that you're wanting to exclude first, and then you can build. So let's say we're looking at my Giving Tuesday segment. I'm going to create one, and I have these labeling systems that make things really easy. So GT, not Eleanor from Gone in 60 Seconds, GT for Giving Tuesday, segment number 1. It's a bit of an old reference. I don't know if anyone's going to get that. Got any Nick Cage fans on the call? But contacts who've donated in the last 3 months, remember, I'm going to be excluding these folks from my segments. So we'll go ahead and we'll create that. And I'll just say date received, donations, and then is relatively 90 days ago, give or take. That way this is going to update itself automatically. So who have I got? 16 contacts that I'm going to be excluding from my segments. So now I've got my exclusion list. Beautiful. Let's create our next segment. This one is GT segment 2, Giving Tuesday 2021. So this is an actual audience. This isn't exclusions. This is the email I'm going to send to folks who donated to Giving Tuesday last year. So step 1, we've got to exclude those folks we want to exclude. So I search segment, and under contact segments, I select contains any of, and I just choose that segment. So number 1, we know they're being excluded. Next, I search for campaign, donation campaign, contains any of, Giving Tuesday 2021, save. So now I've got a list of 13 contacts, none of whom have donated in the last 3 years, and all of whom donated to Giving Tuesday last year. Let's keep this ball rolling. Create new segment. Okay, my third segment, remember, is folks who donated in 2022. First thing I'm going to do, exclude. So anyone who was in that first segment, anyone who's donated in the last 3 months is getting excluded, but also anyone who donated in Giving Tuesday is getting excluded. I want to make sure I'm only sending one email to each person. And then we'll say date received is relatively, whoop, this year. Save. I don't know if that's pretty specific. This is a test account. Okay, here we go. So I'm looking at, oh, sorry, we want does not contain any of. I've been doing contains any of. Make sure you switch to does not contain any of. You want to exclude them, not include them. Apologies for that. There we go. So now I've got a list of folks who aren't in those segments. So they're not in this segment, they're not in this segment, but they are folks who donated this year. And because I made a change to those filters when I switched the contains any of, say filters to segment. And then, easy as pie, we can do a really quick catch all at the end. Everyone else. And this one is just going to be segments excluding. So it does not contain any of number 1. Segment does not contain number 2. And because I've put these beautiful labels in there, this is so easy. Does not contain segment number 3, save. This one, there'll probably be no one. Surely there's no one left. We only have
Elsie, use
60.
the contains any logic for those two.
Sorry. There still should probably be no one. Oh no, 62. Okay, ignore me. There's heaps. Okay, so this is how I think you should structure your segments. Whether or not you use the exact segments that I recommend, it's completely fine. It's completely up to you. But I do think start with the one that you're wanting to exclude. And then as you're creating those lists, exclude. And ideally what I have now for my Giving Tuesday, once I go in and fix all of those filters that I stuffed up, I now have 3 separate individual lists that I can work with. And I might go to every single email in here on each special date. I might create 3 segments for each. And hopefully those segments can be reused for all 4 appeals. But having those segments, that's what people talk about when they say segmentation is so important. It's not important in that you need to have very complicated segments. It's just important that it exists and that you're changing your emails based on that segmentation. Keep it simple. And also thank you, Nicole, for jumping in there and saving me. I was very concerned about time and it was throwing me. Speaking of which, the last thing I want to talk about is automation. I only have 1 minute to talk about it, so I'll make it quite brief. But there is one part of this whole strategy that I haven't spoken about because it is the next level. And it's the concept of sending out an email and then sending out the next email and adjusting it based on the behavior of your contact in the first email. So these emails, they just have, you get the Giving Tuesday message number 1 and you get Giving Tuesday message number 2, regardless of if you opened it or not. With the automation tool, what you can do is you can adjust your response based on those behaviors, which is getting even more specific. So for example, I've got a little sort of one set up here where I send the first version of the email, Giving Tuesday email number 1. I wait 7 days and then I send number 2. This is that personalized email that I'm going to send their giving history in. Then I can wait to see if they open the email. If they do, I can go down this path. If they don't, I can go down another path. So my concern, for example, is if people didn't open my Giving Tuesday email number 2, and I send them an email on Giving Tuesday asking for money, they might feel it might be a bit jarring. I want them to have at least one touch point before I send the giving ask. So if they don't open it, perhaps I'd send one email the day before Giving Tuesday just saying tomorrow is the big day and hope that that eases them into it. Things like that. Things like at the end of the year, when you have your, your end of year follow-up message here, you can use automation to only send that to those folks who open the email or those folks who open the email but haven't donated yet. Those folks who clicked on the donation but didn't go through checkout. You can send them just an email saying, hey, just a reminder, you got halfway through donating and you left. Do you want to continue? Things like that. And we have a very special promotion for you all. That's why I'm talking about automation right now. For starters, we have a promotion for everyone at Keeler at the moment, where if they purchase automation before November 18th, while slots last, we will create 3 automations for free. So we've got a list of 10 automations that you can choose from, and you can pick 3, and then we'll create them in your account, in your automation tool. You can use them as a baseline, so you can build off them, or you can just launch them as is. They'll all be ready to go, but you might need to make some tweaks to make them personalized for you. The highlights of which are an end of year appeal that you can create, similar to what I was just demonstrating. So looks at open rates and things like that. Event registration, so a whole process of RSVPing, giving dietary restrictions and things like that for any end of year galas that you might be running or any parties. And of course, a donor thank you series for first time donors who you're about to get a lot of, I'm sure. So something that stewards them as donors and tries to convert them into recurring donors, either monthly or perhaps at least getting them to come back next year. And the second promotion is just for you. Everyone who attends this webinar, whether you register or you attend, gets 25% off all new automation purchases made before the 4 p.m. 31st of October, which is next week. Now, the 25% off, you get that until the 31st. The 3 for free automations, everyone gets that promotion, and the slots are filling up fast. So if you miss out on that, I'm very sorry, but you won't miss out on the 25% if you get before 31st. And if you get in real quick, you'll have a chance at getting both. All right, question time. Thank you so much for your patience while I went in there. It doesn't look like there's a lot of questions, so maybe I was wrong. Oh, Vicky, I just want to read this out. Oh my God, Elsie, you've done it again. I want to cry with relief at the help and direction you've given me today. Thank you. Vicky, that's one of the nicest things anyone's ever said to me. Thank you so much. You are most welcome. That's exactly why I do it, for messages like that. That's beautiful. Looks like we have a question in here from Jeanette. Fabulous presentation. Get out of here, guys. You're making me blush. Guess I got you all on board now. How confident do you need to be in your data, i.e. how clean, before you recommend trying segmentation? It would be very easy for a donor to get a wrong message if your data isn't accurate. Yikes. Absolutely agreed. I would have to be very, very confident to do complicated things. Here's what you need to take into consideration. If you are, and this is why we say data is so important. Everyone thinks that I'm just this crazy person for data, but it's for things like this that it's really important. If you're confident in your donation data, then you can use segmentation without any worries. If you're not confident in your donation data, I still think it's important to segment, and you should still put trust in your segment. However, my suggestion would be always make sure that you're wording your emails for the worst case scenario. So let's say we're doing a LIBUNT list or a SciBunt list, where it's folks who've donated in some years but not this year, and you think, okay, we don't have any data from 1989 in here. You could word it a little bit differently and say, you know, we haven't received any donations from you this year. Focus on you haven't given this year. We know that you've given in the past, and maybe not say the year. Maybe something like keeping it very vague. But I mean, if you're looking at things like contact data, I think you're always safe, because contact data, people tend to fill that out with forms and things like that. So I think that's what I'll say. If it's contact data that you're filtering by, I think you can trust it. If it's donation data and the problem is you're not sure it's quite accurate, keep it vague. And if worse comes to worse, be specific with the people you have the most recent data on, because those are your most recent supporters. They're the ones you got to show the love to anyway. So if you accidentally maybe say something to someone who donated 10 years ago and they haven't donated since, shit happens. But the ones that you have the data of, luckily those are the ones you want to give the love to. So I think trust in that as well. And just make your catch-all segment bigger. Have a couple of little small segments for your major donors and the people that you think are close to the line. And then that's okay. If there's only 60 people and then there's 1,000 people who are in the catch-all segment, that's all right. You're still doing it. Okay, we've got one from Lynn. How do I sign up for the free three free things everyone gets that you just mentioned. I'll put a link to the promotion in my follow-up email, which you'll all get in a couple of hours, but you can just reach out to support. Just reach out to the customer care team and just say automation, and they will know that you're trying to beat the clock. But you reach out, we can send you the link. You can look on our knowledge base and search workflows or anything like that. It's all in there. We can give you the list and a quote as well. So reach out to support@killer.com. All right, Emily. Hello, Emily. Here's some more love. You are amazing. Thank you so much. Oh, this has been the best day, and the power didn't go out, so I'm very happy. Okay, how do segments and tags relate? I have received this question a lot. So sometimes people do actually say it. I've got a training video where I say, people always ask me. So tags are a great way to bucket people, but they only tell you one piece of information. So people are either in this bucket or they're not in the bucket. So they're really good for big umbrella things. So for example, I would say that newsletter subscriber would be a great tag. Anyone who's filled out our online subscription Keeler form automatically gets the newsletter tag applied to them. But that's one thing, right? Are they in the newsletter or are they not in the newsletter? Segments can look at multiple facets. They can look at multiple pieces of information. So you can say, are they in the newsletter tag? Yes. Have they ticked any option for what kind of information they're interested in, what kind of marketing preferences they have? So that's how you can take it to a next level. So let me show you what I mean. If I go on a contact here, I believe it's in here. Let's go with SpongeBob. And I'm just going to search for it. Preferences? Sorry, I'm sure I have a custom communication preference. Okay, so communication preference or solicitation preference is a custom field that we have set up on our account. And in this, you can have, multiple options. So maybe someone subscribes to our newsletter and they tick events, news, and impact. So the newsletter tag in this scenario would tell us that they've subscribed to the newsletter. The custom field tells us extra bits of information. It tells us that they want to hear about events, and it tells us that they don't want to hear about fundraising. So we're getting extra layers of information there. And most importantly, tags are something that are traditionally manually updated. Segments are self-updating. So if I go in here and I have my donated in 2022 tag, and I've got my filters here, if someone donates tomorrow, they'll be automatically added to this list. And that's kind of the benefit there. Whereas tags, unless you've got them set up with automation workflows, or unless you've got them set up on your forms to update automatically, a lot of the time you're managing them yourselves. And I sort of try to avoid anything that is manually managed because often it's not sustainable. I hope that makes sense. That's the difference. So tags, great for overarching umbrella, like are they subscribed to our newsletter? Are they a donor? Segments, great for the next level. What are they subscribed to specifically in our email marketing? Is it events, fundraising? Are they a donor? What's their total donations that they've ever given to our account? What's their donor score? Okie dokie. Oh, cancel. And I think that's that. I'm just going to check the chat, and looks like everyone has been answered. Oh no, here we go. Can you just review how to create a segment after you've created excluded segments? I'm so sorry, Darlene. I'm not sure what you mean. All the segments that I created were just all segments. So I created this one. I just created it and I'm going to exclude it from other segments, but that's just a filter. You know what I mean? You don't have to exclude segments if you don't want to. You can just have, you could just have people who donated in this year, and I could remove those and it would still be a segment. So it's still, just folks' date received is relatively this year. Hope that makes sense. Okay, any more? Looks like Victoria's question has been answered by Nicole. Oh, I've got one more. No, answer live. That's Lynn's question, which I've already answered. Okay, I'm thinking that, okay. Oh, thanks, Doug. Well, everyone, I'm sorry I kept you a little bit late today. Thank you so much. This has been an absolutely amazing webinar. I knew it was going to be my favorite one, and I'm glad you thought so too. I am sure everyone here will now go forth and teach the world Elsie's email marketing strategy, which is do not start with segments first. That's crazy. Start with the context. Have an amazing day. Look forward to my email soon. You won't be getting a webinar from me next month. We've got a very special guest, but we'll be back to our regular scheduled programming in December where I talk about receipting, which no one wants to think about yet, but I'm going to make you all think about it. Have a great day. Bye, everyone.